In China, corruption is very common. Officials have many ways to gain illegal incomes for their own purpose, such as misappropriation, embezzlement, taking bribes in offering service to citizens, and offering bribes to their superiors. Although Xi Jinping took up office since 2012 and corruption campaign gained success, China can still do more job on preventing measures. On the contrary, Hong Kong achieved greater results in minimizing corruption in the civil sector than that in China. Hong Kong and China are both inhabitants of Chinese. However, why there are such significant differences in the results of anti-corruption in Hong Kong and China? Despite the clear ICAC, another important contributing factor is the high salary system of civil service in Hong Kong. In China, the general income of Chinese civil servants is very low. This situation in Hong Kong, however, was a completely controversy. Decision authority health officers are entitled to have a high salary. Besides, there are sufficient welfares provided to all civil servants and officials, and so on. Such policies successfully achieved its designated purpose, as within the territory, as except few major corruption cases, corruption in the territory are nearly invisible. Similar cases took place around the world and disproved the relationship between high salary and success of prevention of corruption. Examples around the globe helped prove the effectiveness of high salary of government officials as to serve as tool to prevent and minimize chances of happening of corruption behavior. The prominent successful case in the world is that in Singapore. Singapore is the cleanest city in Asia, which has reached a score 84 over 100 in 2016. In correspondence, the income of the president and prime minister is relatively high comparing with other countries. For example, the head of the state of Singapore earned an annual salary of 2.2 million US dollar. When Singapore former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew visits China, he has suggested China to follow their high salary system to prevent outflow of elites and to help facilitate a non-corrupted public government system. Although the high salary system in Singapore runs thoroughly, some other scholars doubt that high salary system is not a major reason of the success, but with other methods like elite regime, transparency, efficient supervision, getting special welfares and treatment.
To determine whether or not a high salary system for government officials is applicable in China, we should first discuss the current debate on the high income system being effective in fighting corruption. First of all, high salary can provide them with sufficient safeguards in their lives. The 2008 to 2009 economic crisis has had a devastating impact on the global labor market, and this created falling salaries of civil servants, like what happened in Hong Kong. This may incite embezzlements and misappropriation due to reduction of their resources paid to daily life. If there are high government wages, incomes of some of the officials in a lower level, like village committee, can have enough resources to feed themselves and their families, and they may not risk to corrupt due to their stable high income as civil servants. Thus, a high salary system can help to reduce corruption. Besides, high salary could reduce the moral costs of corruption. The perception of failure to receive adequate remuneration may also reduce the moral costs of corruption. In other words, public officials may find it more tolerable to accept bribes if they are poorly paid. However, if compensated with high salaries, government officials would be more reluctant to commit corruption, an illegal inappropriate action, as it means sacrificing their morals for something that has lost its value as they are receiving higher income. Apart from that, it can attract elite politicians and also prevent state personnel moving to the private sector so as to maintain a clean government. There is the risk that higher pay in the private sector may lead to a brain drain in the public sector. This is because government officials would be drawn towards better paying positions in the private sector than remaining in the poorly paid government. It has also been argued that low salaries in the public service attract only incompetent or even dishonest applicants, which results in an inefficient and non-transparent corrupt administration. Thus, high salary for government officials would not only attract reduced rate of corruption in the government, but also become the mechanism to attract efficient workers for the government. It is then hoped that a clean and high efficiency government can be maintained.
However, there are still many challenges on implementing such high salary system. Firstly, high government wages should not be used to combat corruption due to its incomplete economic reform, where there are still a certain amount of poor population in China. Since high income are mostly come from taxes, implementing such system may have those present pressurized. Also, some comments also point out that a very high amount of income is required in order to counteract the amount of bribed officials currently corrupt. These points shows that high salary system is very money consuming and it's economic inefficient. Moreover, it is unlikely to reduce corruption by only raising wage. Many studies suggest that increasing salary with establishing effective control and monitoring system as well as enforcement of appropriate sanction is unlikely to have an effect on corruption. For instance, the Prime Minister of Singapore, Mr. Lee Hsien Loong, buy an estate by a discount. This makes a sharp controversy in the citizen which doubt that there are an economic bribery. Another negative example in corruption case is 33 Hospital in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Ernesto Stagodowski, an economic scholar from Universidad Torquato de Tella, revealed that a premium paid to purchasing managers did not have an impact on corrupt activities. This reflects the transparency of the government is one of the essential elements on promoting a clean city. Moreover, there are insufficient figures showing that they have a direct relationship. Lastly, the resistance by Chinese government is really high. The citizen may think that high salary system is only effective to those who are not greedy and honest. Apart from that, the actual income of Chinese government officials are not as low as we think, like the Sangong expenses and the invisible welfare like fruit baskets. These will also make high salary system to be hard to persuade the citizen. Moreover, high salary income actually against the traditional values. The first one is Confucianism, which promotes clean by being frugal since high salary will cause officials to be materialized afterwards. The second one is communism, which encouraged even distribution of salaries. Mao Zedong was disappointed to the salary system in 1956, which worried that the high salary would make the officials become materialistic. Since these traditional values root deep in Chinese people's mind, it's very hard to persuade them to adapt this system.
Boao Forum in Asia in 2015 has shown the advantages and difficulties in implementing high salary system in China. Many people agree with Dong's opinion while opposing Zhang's opinion, which shows that the most of the Chinese adopts the high salary system. In our view, we think the high salary system is not feasible in China due to many constraints, such as inadequate economic reform in China, uncertain efficiency and conflict between Chinese traditional values and high income system. However, we think that China can use other methods to promote this criteria, like distributing subsidies. Also, we think that China can also mimic Singapore's elite regime and high transparency, which can help to further prevent corruption.